This is Late Night Politics on StarFm, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene.
It's a Monday and it's Late Night Politics. My name is George Msumba. Welcome to the program. An MDC alliance has been launched in an effort to unseat ZANU-PF from power in next year's harmonized elections. Is this the answer that the opposition has been looking for, considering that some of the players have already tasted defeat in a unified MDC-T? Tonight on Late Night Politics, I have political analyst Mr. Sharon Hofisi, as well as National Constitutional Assembly spokesperson Mr. Madock Chivasa. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the program.
Yes, this is your first time to be on the program. What have you been up to as a political party?
Yeah, we've been building structures across the country, also engaging people, mostly recruiting new members.
Mm-hmm. And how has been what has been the message coming from the structures? What are they saying?
Yeah, I think it's also now very difficult to get new membership. It seems that most of the politics now in Zimbabwe is now commercialized, that people think that when you ask to talk to them, they believe that you must give them something just to engage. So it's something that is quite disappointing, but a culture which we think has been built by the politicians who have been there since 1980 up to now.
Sharon, that issue has been raised that the political parties are finding it difficult to engage because people expect handouts. Is that your reading of the political landscape?
Yeah, I think the politicians are actually giving their voice, and I think it's the issue of the interface between mobilization and the economic factor. And he's saying actually the economic factor is taking a stop. And I think from what they are saying, I would then accept that indeed mobilization is very difficult because of that.
What is the downside to that, Madock? What is the downside where people expect handouts and they do? It seems like a short-term vision in terms of national development.
Yeah, clearly, it's just a short sight, and also that people don't understand what will be at stake, let's say, when elections come. Because to me, an election simply means an exercise to choose your own representatives, be it your councillor, be it your MP, be it your president. So if you undermine your vote to the extent that you make it valueless to the extent of saying that if someone comes and probably they buy you a cigarette, they buy you probably a super or give you some $10, then that's what it takes. I mean, I think you will not be understanding the whole essence of the election altogether, because election in itself is for an ordinary person to interrogate the manifestos that will be on the table. You interrogate and you see what is it that is good for you. Then you choose the best candidate.
Sharon, that is a sad indictment on us as the populace, in that from Madock's point of view, he is looking at it in a way that we are mortgaging our future for short-term gains. You're reading into that?
I think these are just prevalent views from the electorate. They are looking at ways of dealing with the coming election. So, like he's saying, if there is a manifesto, your manifesto should show me that you are going to change the situation that I'm currently facing. But if the situation is going to stand still come the election, as someone who is having a view which should be prevalent in a pre-election environment, I'm bound to make those decisions, because I'm saying you are a political party, you have a manifesto, you are promising me something come the election or in the event that you win. So what is it that on the table? People are not going to give people a vote of tolerance, but they are going to give people a vote that shows that Part A, Part B is going to bring something which is beneficial to me. If I need food, I want a part that sells its manifesto to me in a manner that promises food security. If I need democracy, I need a party that shows me that indeed it's pro-democracy. And I think these are issues that we have to consider as the electorate.
What has been the trend in the past? Have we voted for manifestos, or have we voted? What has been the trend really? What has been driving the electorate in the past, Madock?
Yeah, what has been happening in the past, obviously, is that our elections, they've never been issue-based. That is why I will recall that in most constituencies around 1999 and before 2005, in most constituencies where opposition won against the ruling ZANU-PF, the people they actually ended up crying in terms of not seeing their representatives. Some of them did not even know the candidate that they had voted for. It was simply a protest for that because they did not want ZANU-PF. So they were going to vote for anyone who was opposition. I think that's where the dangerous precedence is coming from. So you find a situation whereby I honestly myself would be surprised why someone will even continue to go and vote if the candidates there are people that are not even known to you. Because the election is asking you who is the best amongst these people. And if you continue to choose the best amongst people you don't even know, people you have not interacted with, it means you are the one who is just doing the service. Better leave those who know those people to choose, you see. So I think our elections have been affected also because of the polarization, the hatred. You find sometimes we have had an opposition that think that anything that comes from ZANU-PF is bad, which is actually not correct, you see. We've also had a ruling ZANU-PF which thinks the opposition does not have anything good for the nation. So that polarization, I think, it's sometimes, undermine our elections, where you find the right candidate might simply lose simply because the person is coming from ZANU-PF, for example, or is coming from opposition. I mean, if you are a very good candidate and you are an opposition candidate in a stronghold of ZANU-PF, let's say in a rural area, I can give you a good example, like where I contested myself in Bigita West. I've got no doubt that the other candidates who were there cannot represent the constituent, probably even the quota to the level that I can myself. But because probably there is believed to be a strong ZANU-PF, we can end up having someone who does not even have a good intention, or probably not as good as the other side. So that's how polarized the politics has been. That's what I think.
Sharon, he has raised a very important issue that we do not vote for the candidate who is best placed to advance our cause as a people, whether it's development economically, whether they can articulate our issues in the National Assembly. How do we drive the electorate into next year? The media, us as the media, you as political analysts, how do we drive the discussion around people choosing a candidate based on ability and performance?
I think we really need to have a radical shift in terms of our mindset. We have a constitution that speaks about political participation, and we need to ensure that the general populace have the constitutional literacy. And here we want leadership. From what I'm saying, we want leadership through service. The leadership through service has not been seen in the constituencies. But now we have platforms, even like Parliament. We had the Speaker emphasizing that MPs must be visible. We no longer can afford to have a situation where we have selective visibility of candidates or legislators who only come towards the election year or towards the election itself. We want to ensure that the members of the public do have time with the legislators to tell them that these are the issues of development that we want. I think his point is very valid, because the electorate actually has perceptions, which perceptions must be transformed into reality. So each and every legislator has a role to play, and the media and the academia, and even political analysts, do have a role to make sure that they know what is obtaining on the ground, so that we don't produce citizens of nowhere, but we have citizens who come from somewhere and who appreciate what is actually obtaining in their particular environment.
For those who have just joined us, it's Monday and it's late night politics, and we are discussing an alliance of the opposition in a bid to unseat ZANU-PF from power in next year's elections. Is this the answer that the opposition has been looking for, considering that some of the players have already tasted defeat in a unified MDCT? And tonight I have in the studio political analyst Mr. Sharon Hofisi, and as well as National Constitutional Alliance spokesperson Mr. Madock Chivasa. We are discussing politics of an alliance, coalition, so to speak. Let's get into the topic of the discussion for tonight. We've just laid the groundwork. We've discussed about voter perceptions and voter how people vote. Is an alliance or coalition the answer to an opposition victory in next year's elections, Madock?
To the question that you are asking, definitely to us from the NCA, a coalition is not the answer in terms of removing ZANU-PF. It will never be the answer, because the problem that we have is that when you look at it as NCA, we feel that the problem is in terms of the systems as prescribed in the Supreme Law, the new constitution. We believe that the new constitution comes with the rules, the same old rules that we did not want in the old constitution. So when you look at it, for example, that a sitting president is the one who appoints the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, for example, and that chairperson is supposed to be a former judge or probably a sitting judge. In a way, that person is supposed to be a lawyer, because you can't be a judge or a retired judge. If you are not a lawyer, you cannot be a judge, you see. So you find that now sense in the new constitution, which was not written by ZANU-PF, as most people want now people to believe. We all know it was written during the inclusive government, where there was opposition and ZANU-PF. So when you look at that on this one, it's a clear advantage to any political party with a sitting president, in this case ZANU-PF. It means that they are the ones who have appointed the chairperson of ZEC. So there's no way that you see, this is where we differ with our colleagues in the oppositions. That, for example, they want people to believe that what is wrong is Rita Makarao, for example. Whereas Rita Makarao is clearly an appointee who was not even appointed by President Mugabe alone, but by the inclusive government, which also included the Prime Minister then, the President of MDCT, Morgan Tsvangirai. So when you look at those things, those are the systems that we don't want. We don't want a constitution that gives a system which gives an advantage a sitting government. And I was just giving you that as an example, but I can quickly give you another example. There's no way that we can be agreeable to say that the constitution can be the election can be won by any other person who is not ZANU-PF. If it is clear that, let's say, for example, the people like the judges again are directly appointed by the president. Because what happens is that if you lose an election, or if you think you have won an election and you think you have got probably some complaint, logically, if you are law-abiding, you have to go to the court. So you can't then end up in the same court where a judge who was probably appointed by the same person who was also an interested party in an election, or probably just a contestant in the same election, you see. So as far as we're concerned, next year, it doesn't matter if people have a coalition. What matters is that we have to change the systems, as in the new constitution, we even allow, for example, people in the diaspora to vote. The present constitution is not even allowing them to vote. And we wonder ourselves that every day we have RBZ having some advertisements pursuing people in the diaspora to contribute money. But when it comes to their voting, they say, no, you don't have that right to vote. Something that is quite unfortunate. So until those systems are actually addressed, then that's when we will be able to say, probably as opposition, not necessarily as coalition or whatever, but as opposition, that's when we can say we can remove ZANU-PF. Now we are in this situation because we have got a new constitution that allows a present government, which actually makes the present government difficult to remove. And obviously, it's clear who authored that constitution. It's known. The people who were moving around, mobilizing people to say, vote yes to this constitution.
Okay.
I think that is something that is to public knowledge.
Okay, Sharon, before you come in, Madock, but you have been consistently participating in by-elections. The logic in that, you are not happy with the constitution, but you are participating in what you call an uneven playing field.
Yeah, okay. I think in 2013, after the elections, as NCA, you will know that we were not a political party. We realized that since there was no longer any opposition political party in Zimbabwe that believes with what I was saying, to say that what is wrong are not the faces as in Rita Makarao in Zeg, as in President Mugabe, but it's the system that these people are using. So there was no longer any political party with that ideology, because what we then saw then was to say that we're having our colleagues, for example, in the MDC, led by Morgan Tsvangirai and led by Osman, who were saying actually they were agreeing to these laws because they were now thinking that they were the ones who were going to take power from ZANU-PF. So once we realized that there was no longer any political party representing that view, to say that what we need to change as a nation is the system. That's when we changed to a political party. So when we changed to a political party in 2013, we've got a lot of constraints. For example, we are not funded by anyone, for example. We just get money from our own members. Unlike other opposition political parties who get money from abroad, who get money everywhere from the government, Political Finance Act, we just ourselves. All we have is a building in everybody's table. That's all we have, you see, as NCA. So we realized, okay, what else can we do to advertise ourselves? We realized that there will be by-elections because naturally people will die, some will be recalled, like the present constitution allows that again, to recall when you are elected. So we realized there will be by-elections. When by-elections occur, obviously there is a nomination. During a nomination, successful candidates will be announced on radio. Here we always hear on StarFm, so and so from NC have been nominated in Mwenezi, have been nominated in Bikita, nominated in Chimanimani. Then obviously someone who may not get to reach because of the constraints. We just hear news, you guys, your news at StarFM, then they know there was some election in Mwenezi. These are the results. There was someone who was called Wellington Masu from NCA who got 485 votes. Then even if we have not reached that person, already they know that NCA is now a political party. So those by-elections don't draw anything from them. It's just our advertising strategy, just to say we're announcing ourselves that we're now a political party. Then when we get as many people who have got this ideology, I'm saying that what we need to change are the systems, not necessarily the faces. Then obviously we will confront whoever will be calling themselves government then to say, let's change the constitution. We don't have a constitution.
Sharon, Madock says that any alliance or any coalition will not unseat ZANU-PF. Your reading of that?
I wouldn't say an alliance will not unseat, because we considering here the pre-electoral environment, where we are saying actually these are just prevalent views that we are considering. We are saying the prevalent view in the pre-electoral environment is that there is a party or maybe a group of parties which could, and underline could, potentially unseat ZANU-PF. And they are saying for us to do that, we have to coalesce. We have to consider the possibilities and the challenges. We have to consider even the framing from all sectors of society on what to likely obtain. So they are doing some scenario mapping. What if we come together? What will happen to ZANU-PF? So at the end of the day, we are saying they are also considering the past events. In 2008, for instance, we had an independent presidential candidate, and there was some vote split. If that vote had again been given to the opposition, maybe they could have won. So these are issues they are saying, why not go together to an election so that we join forces and then win against ZANU-PF? Because the only aspect which is coming here is ZANU-PF is a force to reckon with. And for them to then unseat ZANU-PF, they have to join hands. This is the prevalent view in the pre-electoral environment, and it's also based on the 50% plus one. They are saying, okay, now we have NENA, now there is CORD. It started in 2016 when CORD, 5 political parties coming together to say we want to have a vision, which vision would get us through to the next electoral cycle. So here, after the 5-party coalition under CORD, we now, a year later, see MDCT, NPP, MDCN joining and signing a memorandum of understandings in a bid to again unseat ZANU-PF. So it then depends on what a coalition government, like a coalition government can be seen in two ways. One, as several parties cooperating, or as an alliance. An alliance then becomes something like a temporary union, something like, you don't have common goals which you are saying they should be shown before you then join forces. So really, it's an issue to consider.
From your analysis, can this coalition or alliance, can it unseat ZANU-PF?
Like any alliance, any coalition, we are talking about perceived political legitimacy. He has said that as NCA, they participated in the by-elections. They did not expect to have 485 people. But when they went to an election, 485 people gave political legitimacy to a new kid on the block without necessarily having seen any face. The face of NCA just benefited from the nomination sellouts made through the media. But these people were not actively visible on the ground. But they garnered 485, which to me is a huge stride for a new kid on the block. So what more, one dominant political party coming together with other small and seemingly bigger political parties coming together and then say we want to go against one political party. ZANU-PF can afford to say, okay, here in this country they have been dominating. We have one. We can have, if you start political parties, you can have a country where you have one dominant political party, and ZANU-PF has been dominant, judging by past election results, and because of that, they can still dominate. So these political parties are saying, for us to then deal with a dominant political party, we also have to show that we can be dominant by coming together in large numbers.
Madock, would you be part of an alliance if you are invited to one?
No.
As NCA?
No, definitely. I think what I need to explain here, I think I two critical things which we emanate directly from the question that you have asked. Firstly, I think there's issue for listeners to understand that a coalition that is just a coalition with no issues, which is a coalition to remove President Mugabe, or to say that President Mugabe must go, is not a meaningful coalition to start with. I think you have recently had the First Lady now even saying President Mugabe must appoint a successor.
Yes.
So what it means is that this is actually already a debate that is actually now even in ZANU-PF itself. So if you're going to have a coalition based to say that President Mugabe must go, then why not even probably try and seek alliances with even the First Lady, you see? So that's how useless that coalition will be. If you form a coalition based on something that almost everyone is now agreeable, even including the president's wife, you see. So a coalition should be based on issues. What do you represent? What do you intend to do if you are elected? And we have not heard anything. And I think probably this debate would have been more enriched if those guys in the coalition were there represented. But to me, I think I'm always, even on social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, I try, even I read newspapers every day, all newspapers. I listen to even some media houses like StarFm, ZFM, even Capital Radio, Capital Talk. I listen to all those. I have not heard what a coalition represents so far. All I've heard is that so and so have got many people. We have to coalesce with Maim Juru because they've got some rural. We have to do what? That has been so silent, you see. So we believe that as NSA, we would rather be not part of such a coalition. Our coalition must be based on ideology. It must be something based on policy to say this is what we want, this is what we represent. Then you do that. And of course, there's nothing wrong for those who want to have a coalition. It's okay to them. And because they've got same views, for example, you've asked why we can't be, for example, be in a coalition with them. If we become in a coalition with people who crafted a constitution that we are against, we'll see no reason why we can't even coalesce with the ZANU-PF, because ZANU-PF, just the other opposition political players whom we are saying, why are we not in coalition with them? They're the ones who wrote the constitution. And as far as we are concerned as NCA, the reason why we differ with these people, there's not anything personal or anything. Where we differ with them is that they crafted a constitution that is bad. So if we end up, let's say, in a coalition with Shanghai, why can't we be in a coalition with President Mugabe, for example? Because what we are against as NCA is only the consent. We have not said any other thing. We have said the laws that they have crafted, we are against them. So we don't see any reason if we end up in a coalition with them, with the other opposition groups, to fight ZANU-PF. We would rather even probably have chosen to be in coalition, being on ZANU-PF side. Then I think I want to elaborate to you that as NCA, we are not worried when we hear people say that they've got numbers. Because, of course, if you have got numbers, what we continue to also to want to see is to see how we are using your numbers. Because if oppositions say... Yeah, that's what I want to elaborate, to say that it doesn't not necessarily follow to say that if you've got numbers, then you have got good intentions for the country, for example. Because if the opposition that is there, that is fighting ZANU-PF, we can't dispute here that ZANU-PF has good numbers, for example. But we all then agree that those numbers are not being used for the good of the country. Because these are the numbers that sometimes we hear that now in ZANU-PF this month or this week, we are doing a program to make sure that Kasugwere is gone. I think my classmate there at college, Kasugwere must go. So, I mean, can we say that those big numbers have been utilized to say the whole nation starts to be on toes to say that as ZANU-PF, they want Kasugwere to go? Those are big numbers. They are not useful to anyone. So we are not intimidated when we hear our colleagues in the opposition say, no, we've got the numbers. Fine. If you've got the numbers, are you utilizing them for the benefit of the country? All we see is that you had numbers. What did you use your numbers for? You used your numbers to campaign for a bad constitution, for example, which we are now all seeing that is a bad constitution. Those were big numbers. We voted for a new constitution. If you compare them with those who said no when we were mobilizing no, those were big numbers. But now, look at what big numbers brought us. They brought us a very bad constitution, which is not very different from the old constitution that wanted to replace. So, from our background, we're actually happy with those outcomes that you get from the by-election. To say that we actually have 485 people in Mwenezi, or we have 455 people in Chundura, that's something we never even thought ourselves we could have reached that far. And he was very correct. We know that with time, we have more people who believe in that. What we need to change are the systems, not necessarily the faces. Because during the inclusive government, we learned that even our colleagues in the opposition, they were now even doing the same things that we never thought they would be doing. Living lavishly and, to the standards that some of them we really wanted to say, are these the same people who were just recently driving 323s in town? They now just move with this whole outrage. And not so long ago, those the same people were actually castigating President Mugabe. Say, no, the presidential motorcade is too big, you see. So we now know that any person is capable of doing what is bad to the people. All we need is to have good laws to make sure that politicians are checked. And that is our ideology. And unless we get some people with the same ideology, we can't be in a coalition with anyone. We wait to see if there's any other political or opposition party with the same ideology. Say, no, what we want to change are the systems, not necessarily ZANU-PF, because we don't want to end up in a situation whereby we fight ZANU-PF, but doing so with the smaller ZANU-PFs.
It's late night politics, and we have a refreshing discussion here with Mr. Madock Chivasa. He's with the National Constitutional Assembly. He's the spokesperson. Also in the studio is Mr. Sharon Hofisi, and we are discussing the issue about an alliance or coalition in an effort to unseat ZANU-PF from power in next year's elections. Is this the answer that the opposition has been looking for, considering that some of the players have already tasted defeat in a unified MDC? And we continue. Mr. Chivasa is his thoughts as the National Constitutional Assembly. They seem to be their principles seem to be ahead of time. I would suppose that at the moment the battlefield, in terms of electoral contestation, it seems to be MDCT wants to get into power, and ZANU-PF must also retain power. The principles or the logic that he's talking about, it seems to be way ahead of time. Do you agree with me, Sharon?
To me, yeah, he's as a party spokesperson, it's there's no way we can say what he's saying does not hold. But what we need to understand is what he's also saying was echoed, I think, in some media circles, which described the coalition as a rose by the same name, which is just smelling differently. So what they are saying here is the politics of the coalition itself has to be understood. Do you want common goals? Do you want joint actions? Do you want to say we want a resource pool by coming together? But what is then looking at is maybe the third pillar into the politics of coalitions, which is the distribution of possible subsequent payoffs. So in the event that the coalition wins, he's saying, what do we stand to benefit as NCA? Which is maybe an issue of cost and benefit analysis, which NCA is doing. But if we go back to the politics of coalitions, we understand that the coalition parties, maybe they are saying we want to get the best chance of removing the current government so that we also have the chances to rule. And they are also saying we want to exert more influence and more power. If we come together, we mobilize resources, and we then use or channel the resources towards making our making the electorate happy, which is something the coalition partners might take seriously.
Madock, in terms of strategy, you want a constitution that you are not happy with the current constitution. But from the looks of it, in order to craft a new constitution, you must be in power. In terms of strategy, how do you get into power if you are going to walk alone? There's ZANU-PF on this side, there's the alliance on that side, and the numbers at the moment, it seems they are not on your side.
Yeah, obviously, I think the best way to answer that question is that it will not matter if we are either side, because there's no side that is believing what we're saying. So what people need to understand is that... No. I'm saying that it wouldn't matter if we go to the coalition, for example, unless we abandon that principle.
But you once,
Because-
as before you became a political party, the first person, the chairperson was Mr. Changirai of the
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So possibly you could work together again. Are the bridges so bent that you can't work together?
Yeah, no, look, I think you have made a good illustration to describe the leader of the MDC Morgan Changirai as the first chairperson of NCA. That actually makes us get to a very important point that all that I was telling you about the people in the diaspora to vote, about the ZEC to be independent, those are not the things that are coming from my head. Those are not the things that are coming from the present NCA leadership. That is exactly what the NCA stood for when it was formed, when he was the chairperson. So it actually shocked some of us in the NCA to start with when they even started to say that they were writing the constitution, because the basic principle was to say that the writing of a constitution must be left to the people. The politician must just be part of a section of other people with interest. Like we've got the people living with a disability, we've got women groups, we've got youth groups, we've got business, we've got people who come from the church, for example. Those were the groups that were supposed to be leading the writing of the constitution. So initially the NCA was there to ensure that the constitution is not supposed to be written by politicians. And then when it is written, it must represent the views of the people. So we shocked ourselves when he then became, like Morgan Changirai, when he became that same politician, would then end up writing that constitution. That is where the contradiction is. That is where when we say that there's no way that as NCA, you will find us on the same table with those people you are asking if we can join them, discussing about removing ZANU-PF. We can sit to discuss other things. For example, we can meet at weddings. That's quite normal. We can meet at funerals. We can do that. But we can't sit on the same table to say, but the agenda of this meeting is that how can we remove ZANU-PF? Because obviously, those are the people who don't stand for anything. If you can't stand for any value, if you can't be the same, like I was saying that you brought a very good illustration. If you can't be the same person who was the founding chairperson of NCA, which represent the idea that constitution must come from the people, it must not come from the politicians. You can't be the same person 10 years after, preaching the same thing, you see? So, obviously, as far as we are concerned, Zoguti Tirwashoma is fine. Tiawanda. That's not a determinant to say that we must then be probably force merged into a coalition because iko kuneman. Just like if you have seen many people doing a wrong thing, you can't say because there are many, so let me just start to do this thing because there are many, you see. So fine, we understand numbers are important. We understand those who are forming the coalition, they've got numbers. Just as ZANU-PF, they've got numbers. We still have little numbers. We intend to grow those numbers.
The logic, they are sticking to principle. What they stood for at the formation of that is what just before the turn of the 2000, when the NCA was formed, the principles that they moved with are the same principles. Does it always work like that in politics, where you have to stick to certain principles, or you can bargain, you can give and take in order to strategize yourself into power?
I think it goes down to their party ideology. If as NCA they are believing that they have to remain conservative, I think this is entirely an ideological standpoint. But reading into the changing terrains in the Zimbabwean politics, I think it's good to enjoy the benefits of all worlds as a political party. Because we are saying here, like, these political parties are reading into previous political arrangements. In 2009, we had a political coalition, a coalition of political parties under the GNU. And in 2016 and 2017, the parties, some of which were also in that government, are seeing the benefits of coming together. And they are also reading much into those benefits. But maybe to support his viewpoints, you would consider that there are political parties which were splinter outfits. For instance, we have MDCN and MDCT. if you see them signing a memorandum of understanding and rejoining, are we saying they are rejoining with a view of having common goals, joint actions, and contributing towards a resource pool, and also being honest in their distribution of possible subsequent payoffs? It could be very difficult. You are also having NPP signing a MO with MDCT, but NPP saying we want to reach out to other opposition political parties, including the smaller ones. And they are saying our party ideology is that we want inclusivity. But will that augur well with the viewpoints from the MDCT? So at the end of the day, if we are to do some media monitoring, we will then get to know that there are serious differences, but also some common grounds amongst the coalition partners. And as NCA, I think they also just trying to see which political party will be amenable to their desires, so that come the prospects of a coalition, they will also join hands with that coalition which believes in their principles. And I think at the end of the day, all these parties are going back to the issue of ideology.
But Madock, as a political party, can you really stand on constitutional ideology only? What of economic ideologies or foreign policy per se?
Yeah, obviously that is a very good question. You find that when we formed, as I said, when we transformed in 2013 into a political party, what happened is that we have not yet had our Congress. And the reason why we have not yet have a Congress, not because we don't have numbers. I think now people were even accusing us to say that these people, they don't want to have Congress because they don't have any numbers. I think by now they should have been quiet, because the small numbers they were talking about, like the outcomes in the by-elections in Menez, in Bikita, and those are the people who must come to Congress. So I think that debate is falling to say, do we even have people who can come to Congress? I think people have seen our people. They have seen them where we've been participating in by-election. I think recently in Chundura, where we had about 455 people. So the issue is that we know that we cannot have a political party that is just founded on, constitutional democracy, just in terms of focusing on the constitution without elaborating other things. But what we need is that we are still recruiting people. That's why our president now is just the interim president. Is just interim in the sense that when we change into a political party, that I'm the spokesperson, not because I was elected at any congress of the NCA party, but I was the spokesperson of the NCA Civic Society Organization. So the resolution was that the present leadership just assists to recruit people so that we go to a congress. So that's why we cannot be stampeded in a congress. That's why you see we were attacked so much around 2014 to say they don't want even to have congress, they're not democratic. But we knew a lot of things, for example, that we might even not have money, for example, to do that congress. And we might see probably then, by that time, did not even have people to come to that congress. So what we are simply doing is to say that we are recruiting people. These people we are recruiting, these are people who will become, for example, NCA leaders. I will not necessarily become the spokesperson of NCA or any other position. Once we get to Congress, people how people vote. They can simply vote. If probably I want to be any other person, it depends with whether people want to vote me or not. But it's on this particular Congress where we will debate things such as the economic policies and the other things. But also to answer you to say that besides constitutional democracy, there are also some things that you see that were very different from other opposition political parties. Let's say, for example, attitude towards, some state institutions. You find that there's no way that you can find an NCA leader or myself or whoever, even if you go at what level, there's no way that you can find an NCA leader, for example, who speaks bad about the police, for example, about soldiers, about CIOs. We just realized that the opposition that has been there, they also had these problems that whenever, even when they have their own problems, they always want to accuse the CIOs, for example. I think they were the most targeted, but to say, no, this has been caused because the CIOs have done this. So, but we realize that if you're an opposition political party, when you become government, for example, you will also become a government that has soldiers, that have police, that have CIOs. So if you look at us, we are quite different in terms of that. We don't just wake up attacking those people if they have not done anything to us. We don't just attack them. Our mentality is to say that we also need to give confidence to those institutions to say that, but among the opposition political parties, there's NCA, which is tolerant. That's why, let's say, for example, even if someone is a CIO or a soldier or a police, they can still come at 348 average table at the NCA head office. If you pass through, the gate is open. It's always open. It's not closed for anyone to be asked where you're going or who do you want to see. So it's open to everyone, including the CIOs, including the soldiers, including the police. We just want to be different. So you can also notice that difference in terms of not necessarily the economic blueprints, but in terms of our attitude. We don't just attack to say ZBC has done this if they have not done anything wrong to us. We just want to be different in that aspect.
Sharon, where is the opposition getting it wrong? Of course, he talked about certain issues about, he said just, sometimes we best, the opposition maybe, it bests its your ideology on Mugabe must go and so forth. What other issues also affect the opposition? Why can they not unseat ZANU-PF?
I think that question is kind of tricky, but one thing about Zim politics should be looked at a macro and micro level. At a micro level, you see that there have been issues to do with egos. There have been differences on who will be the coalition leader. Some will be saying, okay, Mujuru should be the leader. Some saying Morgan Tsvangira should remain the face of opposition politics, and since he has been also a face of democracy, others will also even say, okay, let's go back to the leader Tsikit, who was appointed in 2016 under court. Some will also say, okay, what will become of smaller parties if we say, okay, these are tried and tested, we want them. So really, if we are to look at a macro level, we then go to what happened between the TAP and the Tories, for instance, in the UK. You saw May was being told that this is the high time where we need change, and change has to come. But it has to come in three ways. We want a change in style, a change in tone, and a change in substance. So if we are to have a change in style, we are saying here the opposition really knows that ZANU-PF has been winning in this area. So if they were not going into the rural areas, for example, if they were not going into key ZANU-PF strongholds, for example, they have to go there. Then there's change in tone. He has emphatically been spot on by saying that we do not have to cultivate some hate speech. We also do not want to cultivate a sense of living under perceptions. If we have a constitution which was created by ZANU-PF and the MDC formations that were part and parcel of the GNU, why should they not then appreciate that we now have a revolution in terms of constitutional politics? We have institutions of government that include the police, that include the CIO, that include the soldiers as security institutions. So they are exercising their constitutional powers to say, okay, we can do A, B, C, in as much as they're acting in terms of the constitution. But my problem with that aspect, again, would be on the issue of saying that if the NCA is just worried about the constitution, there are two types of politicians. We have ordinary politicians and constitutional politicians. Constitutional politicians will try to appease the feelings of the people, but ordinary politicians know the constitution, but they will simply go and sell their candidature to the electorate and allow the electorate to then maybe gauge how they conduct themselves in terms of the constitution. If the NCA remains like behaving like constitutional politicians, then it could be very difficult for them to also make a mark. But the last aspect would be substance. There is a lot of substance in what they are saying, to say, okay, let's adhere to the constitution, let's adhere to the principles that we agreed. So if the opposition is to make a mark on the Zimbabwean politics, they should then look into the substance of what they are agreeing. If they have a memorandum of understanding, how much is taken from the ideology of NPP, which is added into the coalition? How much is taken from MDCT, from MDCN? And we are saying if MDCN did not win even a council seat, maybe in 2013, and it won 10 seats in the 2008, how can we say, okay, we want to translate the 10 seats by MDCN into the numbers that will benefit the coalition party? If NPP has changed from Zimbabwe People's, or is a splinter group from Zim People First, how are we going to add value to the coalition by including NPP? So all these are aspects that have to be considered if the opposition is to try and make a mark against NPP.
The program is Late Night Politics, and we are discussing the politics of alliances. As we have just heard that over the weekend, there's an MDC alliance which has been launched in an effort to unseat ZANU-PF from power in next year's harmonized elections. And we are asking the question: is this the answer that the opposition has been looking for, considering that some of the players have already tested defeat in a unified MDCT? And tonight we have in the studio political analyst Mr. Sharon Hofisi, as well as National Constitutional Assembly spokesperson Mr. Madock Chivasa. And you have raised an issue about egos. Madock, you have been in politics for a long time. Is ego an issue that is affecting the opposition?
Yeah, I think obviously I have not been in politics for a long time. I just started in 2013. This is just about 4 years, I think. So probably 4 years is a long time. Okay, fine. Yeah, true. Ego is a problem in the opposition politics, because you see, there will not be any reason why, for example, some of the faces we are referring to as they have formed coalition over the weekend, there's not any reason whatsoever those people should still be there, you see, as opposition leaders. Because you see, these people, they are there on the same attack that they've been giving to President Mugabe, to say President Mugabe has overstayed. You see, he has been there as a president since 1980. I want to rest assure you that someone who has been an MP for more than 15 years, that person is more dangerous than someone who has been a president for 36, 37 years. Because this person is just an MP, who is there. He has been probably MP for Kuwadzana, for time immemorial, for example. Then you say, is this the only person who can represent Kuwadzana? You say, can this the only person who can be Kuwadzana member of parliament? No, there are a lot of people in Kuwadzana, probably more than 50,000. So why having one person for more than 15 years being an MP, for example? So this is an example that I need to agree with you, that ego is actually what is killing opposition politics. Because if someone wants to be, let's say, an MP in Kuwadzana, where I'm giving an example, then there is an MP there, Honorable Chamisa, who has been there for more than 15 years now as an MP. What should that person do? He wants to join opposition politics. He wants to be, or she wants to be, an MP in Kuwadzana. But there's not that room for that person to, I'm sure that is already campaigning again, probably to be the MP next year. So that kind of politics, to say that someone has been there as a councillor, they've been known as permanent councillors in that ward. If someone wants to be a councillor, what do they do? And they don't want to join ZANU-PF, they want Obosen politics, they don't want to join ZANU-PF. What can they do? So I agree with you. The issue of ego has been a problem in Obosen politics, because there are some people who believe that if they are not there, that's why if you go through the social media, for example, on Facebook, you get such comments such as to say that you cannot exist if you don't support Morgan Tsvangirai. You cannot exist if you don't probably support MDCT. So some of us will cry and say, hey, look, these guys. So why are they not even joining ZANU-PF in the first place? Because that is the same old story from ZANU-PF, to say that, no, we've got the numbers. If you've got smaller numbers than us, keep quiet. Then you get that coming also from the same people, you see, in the opposition, say, no, I'm this, I've been there before. If you want to come, you have to come through me. So that is exactly the politics that we're against, to say that I think it's because of that ego that we realize is and say, no, we just need to stand alone. We create a platform that is genuine. That if someone joins today, they can say, no, probably we even have equal chances to be the president of this opposition party. It's still to have his Congress. The people who are electing now, they've got equal chances, even just like me, for any percent that I might want. That is the kind of democracy that want. We don't want that democracy. In any case, if you look at these people who have been there in the opposition, I think instead of someone to be ashamed to say that you've been in opposition politics for some time, because it's a clear sign of failure, you actually find someone pointing to that as a success, to say that because you just came in, you must come through me because I've been there for a long time. Not knowing that just being there for a long time on its own, that's where the problem it is, because you want to be government. Why should you be overseen for a long time? You should simply be government if you plan your things well. So we see the other people who have been there in overseeing politics before us trying to illustrate that point. Say, no, we've been there for a long time. And some of us will see, these are people who are actually acknowledging their failure. They've been there for a long time. That is why ZANU-PF is still there. As NCA, we don't want to be overseen for a long time. We would want to be government.
Madock, our time is running out, but I would want to have a discussion, a further discussion next week. Possibly we are going to invite alliance members, opposition alliance members, so that we discuss this in more detail.
Yeah, that would be more interesting. Really. I've even earlier on suggested that it was going to be better if they were represented.
Yes,
but they know our views. They don't change, whether they are there or they are not there.
Yes,
they remain the
yes,
same.
I know we did extend an invitation, but it seems the logistics around the alliance issue, they are running around doing that.
Yeah.
But we'll get them as soon as the dust settles, definitely. But just think about, because our time is running out, Madock, just think about, give us a political forecast for 2018. Think about it. I'm coming to you, Sharon. Your political forecast for 2018, how is it going to pan out?
It goes back to the electorate. We can only defend a perspective. We can pan and zoom 2018. We can open our political book charts. It's the electorate who then, at the end of the day, choose whether they like to be part of the ZANU-PF or the coalition. But to be fair, whoever is going to appeal to the electorate or the general populace by showing that they can maintain their unity and they also work the sword, can actually, win the election. And what we're saying here is, like you are saying, if candidates are still relevant in their constituents, if they are still breaking the barriers to political entry, if they are still zeroing on party mission, I think they can also be allowed to.
But you don't want to put your neck on the block and tell us exactly who will win?
For the winner, it's too early to decide. Why? Because he was saying ZANU-PF, yes, the numbers, but the numbers have not been doing what he wants the numbers to do. We can also talk about the coalition partners. You were saying they are busy running with the logistics, and they can surprise me because an election, like you said at the very first time, you said it's an exercise to choose your own representative, and people can wake up and say we are now willing to choose the coalition partners, and they will then win. But it's too early to say who wins the election.
Madock, is it too early to tell what does 2018 hold for Zimbabwe politically?
Yeah, I would just want to say that obviously I think I agree totally with what the officer was saying, to say that you can't know. People, elections really is about people's choices. They are choosing people. You can't know offhand what people are likely to think when that particular time comes. But probably just to say that the expectation from where I'm coming from the NCA, which is a new political party, I think we believe that those elections must be done in peace. We should not have any violence. We must agree as Zimbabweans that we have got different choices that we can make. Some want the coalition, some want ZANU-PF, some want us, the NCA, because we will be there on the ballot. We have our presidential candidate, we have our MPs, we have our 210 MPs in all the constituents, we have our councillors in all the 1,958 wards in Zimbabwe. So obviously we will be a player there. We don't expect kuti chero chinzirwa vashoma. Vashoma vedu vava vasazorohwawo zvavo, varambe variko, vasandi maposters edu mashoma iwo ateta kwanisa kuisawo sevanhu vasina mari asadamburwa. That's our expectation, to say that in an election, after an election, we must also know that we are Zimbabweans. After an election, we still need each other in other aspects that are different from it. So that will be our plea, to say that people should know that there's always life after an election, and there's not really any need that someone must end up being injured or even dying because we are just having elections. We must just have our elections peacefully, and those who win, they take the mandate to represent the people. Those who fail to make it, they probably wait to try next time. That's the way we want to understand it as NCA, to say that in election, when we are entering the election, we can win the election, we can lose the election. When we win the election, we take over as government. When we lose, we acknowledge that we've lost, then we support whoever is elected as government. That is our mentality.
Thank you very much for those thoughts. Peace, peace, peace in 2018, peace in 2017 as political parties start campaigning. That is the call from Madock Chivasa. He's with the National Constitutional Assembly. He's the spokesperson. And thank you for coming through to the program. It has been Late Night Politics. We've been discussing an alliance of the opposition in an effort to unseat ZANU-PF from power. Is this the answer that the opposition has been looking for? And on the program, I had political analyst Mr. Sharon Hofisi, as well as National Constitutional Assembly spokesperson Mr. Madock Chivasa. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming through. And we hope to have another discussion next Monday on Late Night Politics. My name is George Msumba. Thanks also to my researcher, Michelle Jova. Thank you for coming through with the topic and the questions. And from us at StarFm, it's good night. Catch us again next week.
You've been listening to Late Night Politics on Star FM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene. Join us again next week, Monday, same time on Star FM. Tune in to Star FM every Monday night for Late Night Politics, brought to you by Star FM News and Current Affairs. From 11 p.m. till midnight for riveting, engaging political discussions. Meet Zimbabwe's political players as they square off live on Zimbabwe's leading radio station. Your Monday late nights will never be the same again. Late Night Politics on Star FM, leading the pack and sounding good all the time. You've been listening to Late Night Politics on Star FM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene. Join us again next week, Monday, same time on Star FM.